All right, all right, all right. Welcome, everybody. Hello, Espresso Agent World. I hope you guys are doing well today. Thank you for joining us. We've got an awesome day ahead. I'm very excited, and I'm super glad you're here. I'm Monica Weekly. If you've been on any of the Espresso Agent Mastery sessions, you know that my job is just simply to open up this webinar, introduce you to our guest, help facilitate questions, and learn along with the rest of you. So thank you again for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. Let me just take care of a few housekeeping items. I know these questions come up often, so you'll notice that you guys are on mute. That's so that you can have an enjoyable webinar experience, because you know what it's like to have a bunch of people on a webinar and there's all kinds of stuff going on in the background. But just because we have you on mute does not mean we don't want to hear from you. We do. It's really important that you participate. And it helps the flow. If you're asking a question, chances are somebody else is thinking the same thing. So use the chat button at the bottom of your screen and or the Q&A. I'll be monitoring both of them. I'll watch for the questions. If I find an opportune time to ask them, kind of when we're in the middle of it, I'll do that. Otherwise, I assure you, we'll go back at the end and make sure we get all your questions answered, all right? Secondly, the question that is always asked is, will this video be available to watch again? Because sometimes we catch like some really good nuggets in there. We want to go back and hear a second time. And yes, the answer is yes. This video will be up on the Espresso Agent YouTube channel, along with all of the other mastery sessions. So if you happen to have missed one, I'm telling you guys, there's some really good stuff in there, really good. So go back to the YouTube Espresso Agent channel, check it out. I don't know if they'll upload it right away, but check for it in a day or two, all right? So with that, I'm going to introduce our guest today, Debbie Grote from Excelleum Coaching. I mean, can we start by saying, I think you're kind of a badass, Debbie, and I mean that in the best freaking way. I love it
very much. Thank you.
I mean it
from you.
So, yes, it is.
Compliment. Thank you.
Yes, it is. Debbie has been excelling in real estate and coaching for a long time, guys, and I am sure we're all going to learn from her today. She was ranked #1 in listings and sales for Century 21 in Los Angeles, and also 3rd in the nation and 10 internationally. So when you hear that a coach has walked the walk, that's exactly what Debbie has done. And so after some period of time, I guess, I was going to say you must have started selling when you were about 4 years old or something.
Well, 18, but yes, you can say 4.
All right, good. Still very young, doing 150 transactions by the time she was in her mid-20s. Do you think there was something there that she understood? I'm guessing so. So then she took to coaching and was for, let's see, almost 2 decades, right? Or 15 years between Mike Ferry and KW Maps and some other opportunities. Is that right, Debbie?
That's about right. Yep. I was actually running the coaching department for the Mike Ferry organization there about 13 years, and then did a special project for Gary Keller for 2 years to help them with their coaching division. And as I was preparing to launch my own company.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you guys can imagine she has thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of coaching and helping agents grow their business. And she's going to talk to us today about expireds. What I love most about your approach to coaching is the idea that you can't fit a square peg in a round hole, and not every program is fit for every person, and that it's really about customizing it to the path that particular agent is on and what their strengths are. And I just think that's fantastic, and you don't see it enough in our coaching business. So that's awesome. And then I always like to just find out a little bit personally about Debbie so we can all relate to her. And so when Debbie isn't working, which probably isn't all that much, she's outdoorsy, likes boating and hiking and going to the lake. And then she also is, I think I'm probably a pretty damn good cook, and loves to have Sundays with her family and experiment in the kitchen with gourmet dishes, or not so gourmet. I don't know. Is that right?
Well, pretty gourmet. My daughter Taylor, who's here helping with the webinar, who is my director of operations. Let's see, we made pasta from scratch a week ago, including ravioli that when you cut them open, the egg oozed out. So we're pretty gourmet.
Oh my gosh.
We plan these meals all week long, and then we go in there and make a huge mess.
I admire that, and I wish I lived much closer to you, because I don't think that would translate well to Cincinnati, Ohio. So
Yes.
all right, good. Well, I'm going to let you take over. We're going to tackle expired listings, and I can't wait, and I will watch the Q&A as we go along.
Perfect. And feel free to jump in anytime that you need to. Guys, it's absolutely fine. Interrupt me. And as Eden was explaining that, Monica, excuse me, Monica, I see Eden's name up here on my screen too. So I guess she's like in the back end of the technology there taking care of us.
She is. She's watching over us, making sure.
Thank you, Eden. So as Monica explained, you know, I was out in the trenches selling real estate for over 16 years, and expired listings were my thing. They were one of the things that I did. And I'll share with you, I think, just some real practical approaches and how I did that. And of course, if some of you are new on the call, please be encouraged, because I was really out there tackling these expireds when I was brand new. Didn't really have perfect scripts, but still took a lot of expired listings. Now, I just want to make sure I have control here to move the slides. Okay, there we go. So Taylor, just tell me, just click on the mouse, because it's not my usual. Okay, got it. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about today. How to meet the client where they're at, because I know that often, you know, when we're working with an expired listing, they're angry, they're frustrated. And so we really want to quickly identify how to adapt to them and how to be calm and confident as you're working with these expired listings. Now, we've already gone through my background, so I'm not going to take a lot of time to do any more of that, other than you'll note where it says 5-time author. There is a book, Secrets of Super Salespeople, and we want to give that to all of you as a gift today. There's going to be a few gifts I'll mention in a moment. What you'll enjoy, though, I think, about that book, when my daughters, Taylor and Erica, got their real estate license, I actually wrote that book for them, because I didn't want them to be one of those real estate agents that get in the business and wash out within 6 months. So I shared with them, when I got into the business, what were the mistakes I made, how to avoid them, and how did I get to, by the time I was 22, actually 21, I remember, because I was barely old enough to drink at the celebration, the award celebration. How did I get to be an agent that was doing 156 individual transactions with just the help of an admin? And in that book, I do talk about how I fit expireds into my schedule. And what I wish we would have had is a tool like all of you have with the Espresso agent, because we did not. I mean, I had to scrounge and search and find the data, find the information, try to track down, you know, the seller. So, you know, good for you that you're taking advantage of this next generation tool and technology to make this a much more efficient process. Now, because Monica mentioned that we believe in customized coaching, the reason I want to bring this up again is, as we go through this webinar together today, I get it that not every single thing we talk about is going to be something that you're willing to do. Because, see, you are all different and you all have your own unique approach. So we're going to cover, I promise you, we're going to cover as much content as we can. And all I ask is that you will really be focused, turn off your cell phone, get a scratch pad, take some notes, and really look for at least 2 or 3 takeaways that you can take away and utilize with your Espresso agent tool to go out there this year and dominate your local expired market. And that's why I say, too, if there's a question you have, or gosh, if I say something you don't agree with, put it in the chat box. We'll talk about it together. You know, I always believe that each person has to find their own path to success in this business. So the gifts we have for you, I'm going to give you the scripts, and it also comes with a matching audio download. And your team here at Espresso Agent will get those gifts out to you just notice that when you get the scripts that there is an audio download, because sometimes people miss that, and that would be a shame, because at times you may read words on a paper and say, gosh, could I really say that? But I think when you hear the very natural delivery, and here's what I believe in, guys, you do not need to, nor should you be confrontational or in any way, I guess I would say even slightly argumentative with these expireds, because you're not going to win them that way. So I think as you listen to the audio, you're going to go, wow, I could actually say that. Also, the book I mentioned, The Secrets of Super Salespeople audiobook. You know, you're going to love it. You can share it with a friend. Feel free to do that if you think it would help them. But you're going to want to watch for that, and then go in and you just type in a simple little acknowledgement, I think, of the book, and it's sent to you right away. And you'll have that to listen to again and again. Now, one of the things that I am very fanatical about is bringing valuable content to the webinar. So you don't need to worry. I'm not going to be trying to sell you a product. I'm not going to be telling you all about my coaching programs. That's not what we're here to do today. But I know that what will happen, because it always happens in a webinar like this, someone might say, I didn't get everything answered. I'd like to speak to one of your coaches. Maybe I'll tell them at the end of that conversation that I want to know about coaching. But if that's up to you. We are not a hard sell company. So at the end of the webinar, we'll offer you a complimentary opportunity just to thank everyone here at Espresso Agent that arranged this for you, that if you want to speak to one of my coaches, I have them standing by, each setting aside a few spaces in their schedule over the next week. And by the way, guys, these are not sales boiler room salespeople on a sales floor. We don't roll that way here. These are my actual coaches that all have 25 to 40 years of industry experience, just like I do. So that will be coming soon. All right, so why are expireds red hot prospects? Well, it's pretty common sense, right? We know they wanted to sell. We know they were willing to hire an agent. We know what price they were asking. We probably know all about the home because we can research that. And you may even have some understanding of what was actually done to market the home. So you have a pretty good lay of the land. And again, you know, we know they went so far as to hire an agent and get that home on the market. Now, there's nothing wrong with circle prospecting, cold calling, whatever you want to call it. I used to do my share of it. You'll see that in my book, because I actually lay out what my old schedule used to be. And yet, if you think about it, you can do that, which is a little bit of the needle in the haystack, or you can go directly to a targeted group that statistically, 90% of them do relist within 18 months. So that's pretty darn good target, you got to admit. Now, because we are a real estate family, my husband is a 30-plus year veteran. My daughter's got licensed in the last 2 years. I've coached over 70,000 coaching calls. Our clients are all across the nation. I do understand that for some of you, there are very, very few expireds right now in your market, because many of the markets are just experiencing just insanely low inventory. And yet there are always some. And the one thing I would encourage you is go to the higher end. Now, I'm not saying to ditch the bread and butter, but also turn your sights to those upper price ranges, because what you often see happen is there are a few more expired opportunities in the higher price ranges because they don't sell as easily potentially. Also because sometimes those higher end sellers, the homes are unique and they kind of run wild a bit with that, that pricing. Maybe the agent was weak, let him get away with it, So if you move to that upper tier, you might find more opportunity. Also, what you may find is many of the typical agents in your market, they could be a bit intimidated by that higher price range. So the competition is always a little bit less fierce for those higher end expireds. I'm not saying there is no competition, but it is a little bit less fierce. Now, if I don't want to forget to say this, I'm going to say it now, it may come up on the slide later. As you're looking at your expired possibilities, I was going to use the word targets. Maybe that sounds a little aggressive, but we'll call it that. Your expired targets, don't be put off by a really high price. Okay, you might say, oh my gosh, that price is ridiculous. I'm not even going to bother. Guys, don't go there. And here's why. You know, maybe at the time the seller chose that price, well, I should say maybe the seller did choose that price, not the agent recommending it, or the agent didn't know what to recommend, or the seller was less motivated and now they're more motivated. So there's a saying when it comes to expireds, especially high-end expireds, you know, you're better off to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the second or third agent in on an expired listing. So maybe they were a little psychotic back then, but now they've had the opportunity to get, you know, some reality beat into them. And I'm going to give you an example. Now, this is quite a high-end example. We do work with a lot of luxury clients as well here. You know, we're right up against the Newport Beach market here in the OC, I guess you'd say. And one of our clients saw a listing that was $11 million, went out on an expired and listed it for $8 million. And it sold within 2 weeks. So see that, and I know that's an extreme example, but I could give you dozens of all the clients I've spoken with in the last couple of months where the price was very high. They went out, significantly reduced it. In fact, one agent was telling me yesterday, he reduced one, it was a $650,000 listing. He reduced it $250,000. That's how overpriced it was, okay? So if there's so few, you gotta go out there and you gotta go after them. All right, so as we said, the higher up you go, you may find more. And people always ask me, should I call them right away or should I call them in a few days or a week? Yes and yes, right? See, you could choose either strategy and it would be fine. I mean, you could say, hey, my strategy is I prefer to wait a week until things have settled down. Maybe they're not being so inundated, and that would be just fine. And it works. However, what about those that we miss who listed immediately? So why not call them right away? Why not call them a few days later? Why not call them in a week or two? You know, I had the stats and I laid them down somewhere, so I apologize, guys, but I was looking at how many times do agents typically reach out to an expired. So in a hot market where everyone wants listings, quite a lot of agents will often call at least once. And then a much smaller percentage, I think only about 50% who call the first time will call the second time. And then it just drops off a cliff. Who will call the third? It's almost non-existent. Who will call the fourth and the fifth time? So just remember, since they're in your market, could potentially be not that many to call, then your attitude should be, I'm going to hunt them down. I'm going to get them on the phone, or I'm going to get in front of them, and I'm going to keep going after them until I get them. So,
and Debbie, would that be a great argument for calling old expireds as well then, because they may have just been left in the dust?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have our clients going back because, again, there are not that many and haven't been that many in some markets for the last year or two. They may be going back 6 months, a year, 2 years, because, again, remember, 90% statistically will list within 18 months. Now, on that thought, Monica, people always ask me, well, when I'm calling an old expired, what really should my script be? And guys, test it and see what works best for you. You certainly could go at it and say, I know you were an expired listing and I know it's been 6 months and I'm here, I'd like to help you. You could do that. Sometimes I find, though, it's almost like it brings up all that negative energy, you know, all those bad feelings. So you might be better off just to act initially as if you don't even know. You know, I'm reaching out because inventory is low, the market is strong. And the reason I say we, I never would want you to lie that you have a buyer for something when you don't. But if you look at your office, your company, pretty likely that someone in there is the we that has a buyer. And if you feel good about it, you could even ask at an office meeting, hey, who has buyers in my particular neighborhoods I work, because I'm going to be out there hunting. You know, and we have buyers for your area. And I was just wondering if by chance you have any thoughts or any plans on making a move in 2018. Now, they may say, yeah, we do. We had our home for sale. We're thinking about getting it back on the market. Great. Sometimes they said that. Sometimes I found when calling the old expired sale, they would just say, no, not going to sell. So I would do something almost an, oh, by the way, okay, well, thank you so much for talking with me. And goodness, if you ever did leave, where would you go? And I would try to get them to admit something. And if they still didn't, I'd say, well, wait a minute. Now, before I let you go, am I remembering correctly? Was your home on the market 6 months ago? Oh, yeah, it was, and that was a disaster. So if I had to throw that on the table, I would, but quite often they would just admit that they were on the market before, and yes, that they wanted to try again.
That's great. I love it.
So, of course, it's challenging to get them on the phone and to find phone numbers. So you do your digging, you use your tools and technologies, and guys, ultimately, the best is go to the door, right? Because how many agents do that? Almost none. So I want to share a little example to encourage you. You can probably, some of you probably watched that old TV show, The Sopranos, right? And Monica, you remember that neighborhood where he lived, the main dude, yes. Right?
Yep.
Beautiful, you know, New Jersey area, luxury properties, you know, kind of estate type of properties. So we coach a couple that works in that area, and they've got this pocket that they work. And what they do is they wake up in the morning as they're having their coffee. They use their tools and technologies just like you have through Espresso Agent, and they pull up and they see, okay, who's the fresh expireds, who's the fresh targets today. And they've got their little simple package, which, by the way, guys, depending on your market, some markets you could mail something and you might get a response. In the highly competitive, aggressively marketed markets like Orange County, you know, Manhattan, you know, certain markets, they get 50 packets in a day, some delivered in a box with a bow, you know, with a champagne bottle attached. I mean, it just isn't going to work to mail in most cases unless they don't list right away and you do put them on some type of long-term follow-up campaign. Because again, you know, 90% may list in 18 months. So, you know, as you go direct to the door, so I'll tell you how Margie and her husband do it. They have a simple little packet, little cover letter, their bio, and just a couple pieces of information about them and saying, we'd like to talk to you, please give us a call. Almost never does anyone call from the packet. That's not how they get them. So they go, they divide, you know, and some of you are a team or partners or spouses, and they divide and they go out at 7:30 in the morning. Now, obviously, if the house is dark and buttoned up, they don't knock on the door because they might be sleeping, but they see the garage door open, they see the lights on, they knock on the door. You know, I know your home just came up expired, and you know, you probably have already realized that usually when a home doesn't sell, something wasn't done right to market the home. We are experts at determining what that might be, advising our sellers and helping them sell their homes for the highest realistic price. We focus on this area and we would love to meet with you. When could we schedule a time? You know, they just go right to it. Now, if that person's not home, they have their little list on the seat of their car of who they're hunting that week. They go back at lunch, They go back late in the afternoon. They go back on Saturday morning. They go back on Sunday. They make 5 attempts to get connected to that expired. Now, they don't leave a package every time. On the last attempt that they're going to make, they leave a business card that says, please call me. And sometimes they do call off of that, but they hunt them. Now, that's a lot of trouble, you might be saying. I don't have time to do that. Depends on how big your area is. See, they've selected their bullseye, and inside that bullseye, they want those listings. Now, they only list maybe 2 to 3 a month, but their average price point is 1.5 to 3 million. Not bad, right? Not bad for something that really is such a minimal cost, and they just weave it right into their day. So again, mailing information in some markets work better than others, so you can test it. I'll just tell you, if you're LA, Orange County, Manhattan, possibly even like Miami, I mean, any of those types of markets where agents are spending a lot on money on marketing, but they physically don't want to go out and knock the doors and do the work, it's probably not going to get you a lot of result, right? And if you were going to mail something, you may just want to try, and I have a buyer letter or we have buyer letters, and not even addressing the expired issue to see if they might, spark a call for them to reach out to you. So going to the door is terrific, but you got to do it at a time of day that they're likely to be home, right? And you know your neighborhoods. So you know the demographic of your areas of what might be the right time. All right, don't make them wrong. Do everything you can to stay in rapport, to adapt to them. Of the 6 ways psychologically that people are persuaded by you is because they like you. So they feel in rapport with you. Oh my gosh, my agent was an idiot and you guys are all idiots and I can't stand real estate agents. Oh boy, do I ever know what you mean. I mean, just imagine, I got to work with some of these guys every day that I get it. And yet I am different. And I would love to see your home. Why don't you just show it to me? I mean, think about it. What have you got to lose? And the line I used to always say is, I'm going to be in your area anyhow. See, don't take the bait, guys. Don't step into the conflict. Like they might say, well, why didn't you come over and show my house when it was on the market? You're right. I should have. I am very sorry that I missed it. And interestingly enough, I am a top agent here in the market. And actually, though, your agent never reached out to me to directly market it to me. So I apologize, but I'd like to make that right now, and I'd like to come and see it. Well, we're not listing it. Okay, I get it. That's all right. May I ask a quick question before you go? Sure, what? Now, if I were to come across a buyer in the future, and I'm not trying to mislead you and tell you I've got the perfect buyer today, I don't know. I haven't even seen your house. If I were to come across a buyer, though, would you want me to keep you on my inventory roster and at least call and check in with you? Oh, yeah, you could do that. Yeah, you can do that. But no, we're not listing it. Okay. Well, I don't want to waste your time. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to be in your area anyhow today, previewing property. Can I take a 5-minute look at the house? Just in and out. That way, if I ever do call you in the future, we'll know it's a good fit. Because see, guys, here's what I knew. If I could get in that door, they are 50% nicer than they are on the phone. I can build rapport. I can ask questions. And quite frankly, I can see if it's anything I even want. Are they... So, this is just in my mind. Somebody said to me yesterday, so please excuse the graphic language here. They said, I went out on this expired listing and Debbie, I think the dog was pooping on the cat and the cat was pooping on the dog. They said, I have never seen a house that was so disgusting, smelled worse, and the seller was a complete nut. Thought their home was worth more than the model home down the street. They said, I stood up and said, sir, I can't help you, and I got out of there. But the great thing is, they didn't waste months on follow-up. They got in, they looked at the house, they said, I don't want it, out the door, right? So let's get you in the door. Try not to handle so many objections on the phone. Just handle what you need to handle to get in front of them. And let me give you an example. Well, you may notice I only paid, low commission last time. I was paying 1% to the listing agent and 1.5% to the buyer agent. And I just don't think it's worth more than that. I'm not going to pay. Now, I know you want to handle that and overcome it, but what's the point right now? We have nothing. Right now, we're just a stranger over the phone. We're not at the table with a listing agreement in front of us. We're not in a position where we could handle it and close for a signature. All your words right now are just wasted. And when you're ping-ponging back and forth, well, they say something and you say something witty and they say something, that's kind of like arguing because you're setting them against you. So instead, okay, yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that you had a discount commission before. I'll make a note of that. I didn't say I was okay with it. I didn't say I'm going to agree to it. I just said, yeah, I noticed that. I'm acknowledging. I'll make a note. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 4. See, guys, that's not a condition. They're only going to list for that cut rate commission. That's just an objection. But let me get in. Let them get to know me. Let me dazzle them with my custom marketing proposal. And maybe that whole thing will just go away. Now, if it doesn't go away and they bring it up at the right moment, I'm going to look them in the eye and I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand why you'd like to do that again. And yet, if you think about it, if your previous agent had explained to you that commission is very much part of the marketing strategy and that it was actually harmful to encourage or allow you to offer a commission that low, and that's potentially one of the major factors why the home didn't sell. See, if they've been a cut rate before and it didn't work, it's actually kind of easy to get them to upgrade the commission because, my goodness, just remind them, they're not writing you a check. They're not paying you a dime unless it actually closes, right? Unless they accept that offer and it closes. So why not offer a bigger incentive, make the property more sexy for those out there to show, give you that incentive to work overtime. And at the end of the day, they're going to decide whether to take the offer or not. So bottom line, don't try to handle a bunch of objections on the phone. Just get in front of them. So don't rule out those, as we said, where they seemed overpriced because they might be ready to reduce it and it might have been their agent's fault. And Monica, any thoughts? I just want to make sure if you had a comment there.
I just have a quick question that somebody posted back when you were talking about door knocking. Do you have any thoughts about people that are inside of that house, but they refuse to answer the door?
Yeah, just come back another time.
Yeah.
Don't
do too much about that.
Because you don't know, it could be the kid, right? Or it could be the wife who is more timid or doesn't want to be sold, or the husband who's more timid and doesn't want to be sold, and you catch one spouse home. Also too, when you call them, and I'm thinking of a guy, his name was Andrew Lacey. I think he's since retired in Louisiana, and Andrew was such an expired king. And he would call them, and if they were rude to him or weren't receptive, he would just call them back the very next day. Now, he didn't say, which I followed his lead and did the same thing he did with good success. I didn't say, hey, we called you yesterday and you were rude, so we're trying you again today. We just picked up where we left off. We just started from the top. And how likely is it that they remember your name? Not likely. Or that they remember your voice? Not likely. And it always amazed me that day 2 or 3, if I got them on the phone again, how the story could completely change. I'm not selling my house. I'm never moving. Okay. The next day, well, we're actually starting to interview agents on Friday. Right? So they lie. All right, guys, they lie. So dig in for a second time. Now, Andrew, he had quite a Southern drawl. So he was very unique in how he spoke. They did remember him sometimes. And it was kind of funny. They'd say, I think you called me yesterday. And his response was, yes, ma'am, I did. And I really didn't like your answer. So I just thought I'd call you back today to see if your answer changed. And they just laugh and get an appointment.
That's awesome.
Okay? So Zig Ziglar, great sales trainer of decades past, had a saying, timid salespeople have skinny kids. So guys, you gotta hunt, right? You gotta hunt. All right, and don't get on that phone with them or the first couple minutes in the door and tell them their price is too high. It's not what they want to hear. Remember, that's going to shut down the conversation before you even get very far. Now, I am not telling you to lie to them, not at all. You haven't even gotten to the table. So don't start telling them, well, obviously your price was too high. And what we teach our agents to say is that often the reason a home doesn't sell is due to ineffective marketing, and that price is part of marketing. It is not, though, the only part of marketing, and that there could be multiple factors that potentially were done improperly or missed that could be improved or corrected that would cause that home to sell. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I am an expert at figuring out what those are. And by the way, whether you're going to list now or later, wouldn't it give you some peace of mind to know what went wrong, how to fix it? And of course, I'm hoping that if I help you with that, one day when you do sell, you'll consider calling upon me. Because I think it's always important to say to them, I'm willing to come, I'm willing to help, I'm willing to talk to you, it's all free. Why would I do that? Well, of course, if you list your home, I hope you'll call me, right? Okay, so the hook to get you in the door is identifying what caused that home not to sell. So think about this, guys. You're all probably quite attached to your own home. And if you put it on the market and you're all excited and you got it shined up and ready to go, and nobody buys it, it is very deflating. And you don't want to believe it was only due to price. That's why it's such a great way to get in the door and to truly go and be valuable and be helpful and help them identify what went wrong. Were the photos bad? Was there no access because they had a big dog and people couldn't get in to show it and it's a limited window? Sometimes here we have some of the areas here where there are different area numbers, and area 21 might be much less desirable than area 26 in one of our cities. And sometimes the agents mix up those area numbers, which then make that home look like it's overpriced for area 21. So help them find what went wrong, right? So if they, we already talked about getting in front of them. If they won't commit to an actual listing appointment, again, going back to what we said earlier, just ask if they'd be willing to let you come in, see the property, and keep it on your inventory list. Now, guys, you might be saying, well, shouldn't I pre-qualify and should I go if it's not an actual listing appointment? How many, though, a week would we be lucky enough to get in front of? 2, 5? I mean, I would hope it would be more. And if we're going to risk a few moments of our time, who better to risk it on than somebody who has a high likelihood of reselling that property? So my opinion is, unless you're taking all the listings you can possibly manage and you can afford to be super picky, just go get in front of them, right? Give yourself that opportunity.
Hey,
Now,
Debbie,
go right ahead.
are you leaving messages? And if so, what are you saying?
Okay, perfect question for the slide on the screen right now, because yes, I think you should leave a message, not multiple messages, because we don't, want to get picked up for stalking them, right? But I do think you should leave a voicemail. It may not get you a great result. Here's what I found. About the only thing that gets them to call back is if it's a little bit cryptic. Here's what I mean by that. If I call and say, I'm a great agent and I sell this many homes in the market and I wanted to interview for the opportunity of selling your home. If you're selling your home, click, they're gone, right? But if I mirror and match their rate of speech on that message, because when people hear people that speak and sound like them, their brain subconsciously identifies that as a friend. So think about this, guys. Think about your friends. Now, I can tell Monica, because we use the DISC assessment here a lot in our coaching to understand people's personalities. And I can tell Monica's probably a higher I personality, an influencer, expressive, outgoing, fun, easy to talk to. So I can imagine that Monica, she may have family members that are a high S personality style. That she didn't pick. She just loves them. But she probably doesn't have best friends that are a high S personality. Because see, a best friend who's high S, they would speak slowly and calmly, and they'd be a little bit timid, and Monica would be, come on, let's get going. So that is like oil and water, to her. So when I'm leaving that voicemail, if someone answers the phone and says, hello, it's Mary, please leave a message and have a blessed day. And if I say, Mary, it's Debbie and I'm calling about your home, broken report right there, right? Hello, Mary, this is Debbie and I'm a real estate agent and I need to ask you a quick question about the home. Could you call me right back when you can? I appreciate it. Thank you. It will only take a minute. And Mary's going, sounds like a nice lady. She doesn't say, oh, she sounds like me. No, but just her brain subconsciously identifies that I'm safe. I'm like in her tribe because I sound like her. And she's not sure. Does she want to list my house? Does she have a buyer? Does she have an offer? I don't know what she wants. Maybe I better check the box and find out, right? So the longer the message you leave, the worse it gets. So mirror and match them, 30 seconds or less, and just be very vague. I'm a real estate agent. It is a quick question. I won't keep you long. Please give me a call when you can. Here's my cell phone number. And it does actually increase the callbacks. Now, we're going to send you, as we mentioned, the expired scripts. If you are serious about this, I would encourage you to take 10 or 15 minutes a day and practice with somebody. But if you don't have a practice partner, that's cool, that's fine. Just do what actors do, where they read their script out loud over and over and over and over again. And your brain responds well to your own voice. So listen to the audio as you drive around throughout the day in the car. So you can hear my audio, and then you could also record yourself practicing and listen to your own audio, whatever turns you on. Because some people learn better reading, some learn better hearing, but the combination of both is awesome. And when you are so well prepared that you could stand on a stage or join Monica on a webinar and no one could stump you on how to overcome an expired objection when you're at the table or how to handle them on the phone, then you're going to make a lot of money. And I know you're busy, guys, but if you could take 10 or 15 minutes a day and then listening as you drive around in the car and master a skill that could make you a fortune, isn't it worth it? Right? So it takes a little bit of an investment. So we want to get in front of them as fast as we can, ideally, because many will list quickly. And then, as we said earlier, don't neglect, though, the follow-up. Most agents call them once or twice at most. You know, when you look at your lead pipeline in general, all of your leads, if you're buying online leads, the magic doesn't much start to happen until after the 4th month, typically. Most of the leads you're working, it may take 6, 7, or 8 attempts to get in front of them and get that opportunity. But remember, most agents, even if they reach out at all, it's once or twice and they move on. So, you know, dig in because the money is often in the follow-up. So they may have interviewed several agents. So here's what I mean by this. So they've had a terrible experience, let's say, for an example. And they interview now because they don't want to repeat that same mistake. But they're stuck in this rut of they've interviewed all these people and they don't want to make a decision because what if they make the wrong decision? And you may have to find a way to overcome that. So if you sense that's happening with them, you know, this is up to you guys. One I used to use if I needed it is I would say, you know, I'm actually going to provide for you an action guarantee. This was something Century 21 actually had back then. It was called an action warranty, but you could make up your own if you want. And it said that when they would sign a 180-day listing with me, that every 10 days they had the option to send in a request to cancel if they were not satisfied with the service, but they then had to give me 10 days to rectify to their satisfaction. And if they still weren't satisfied, I'd let them go. Now, that gave me 10 days to get them past that emotional moment. Of course, I don't remember having very many of those. But it is a tool if you feel they're stuck and they're just not going to make a decision because they're so afraid that something bad is going to happen again. Sorry, guys, getting over a cold here. Now,
that's a great, I'm sorry, Debbie. That seems
please,
like,
go ahead.
The message there is a level of confidence from you as the agent, that you're confident in your ability to serve them and meet their needs. And I love that idea. That's a new concept.
Yeah, it actually worked really well. We had a nice little form that went with it, and it just said action guarantee.
Yeah.
They had to do a 180-day listing. Back then, they had to do a 6% commission, you know. But then it stated, and the key was, yes, every 10 days, you guys might go, oh my gosh, that's so scary. But the truth is they had then to give a notice of what was wrong, which gave you 10 days to fix it and reestablish that rapport. And it just was not a problem. But it was such a great selling tool with an expired, because I would say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now the pressure is really on me because I got to make sure every 10 days you're super happy. Mm-hmm. Things are happening. And you really have, if you think about it, a 10-day listing. Mm-hmm. Because every 10 days you can send that notice to me. So I didn't use it with every expired. I certainly didn't use it on every listing. I think you guys are going to know, though, when you're going to have to do something a little bit extra just to get them over that hump of fear. Mm-hmm. So get in front of them. And if you're going to get in front of them and they tell you they're not listing, I don't want to talk about listing, but you can come and see my house. Guys, take the listing agreement with you because you never know what's going to happen there. You know, I can remember doing this many times where I would build rapport, and we'd go through the home, and I'd look at them in the eye and I'd say, guys, I can help you. I got this. Let's sit down at the table. I know what went wrong. I can show you what we can do. And I really want to get this home sold for you. And they'd say, okay. And we'd sit down and I'd go through the stuff and I'd get them to sign the contract. So please, a surgeon wouldn't go into the operating room without a scalpel. So don't go to that house without a listing agreement with you, ever. Now, here's what I mean about hallway presentations. You guys have heard the old saying, they won't buy the cow if they get the milk for free, right? So don't let them trap you in the hallway and pick every bit of information out of your head. What should I sell it for? What needs to be done to it? What are the vendors you have, the valuable vendor list you have that you can give me? How can I suck everything out of you and use you up and throw you away? So instead, you can say, I'd be happy to help you and to make a list for you. I call it my curb-to-curb checklist of what could be done to prepare the home better for sale. Let's go sit at the table, though, and let's talk numbers a bit, because how much or how little you'll have to do could tie directly to the price. Well, yeah, and I want all the vendors. You know what? That's one of the things I do once you engage me as your agent. And in fact, I will even help you arrange those vendors. And I think also, too, being careful not to say too much about the problems of the property until you get it listed, and then go out and do that curb to curb with them. Now they've hired you. Now they're more likely to listen to you, because if you say something in that tour that offends them, now they're going to shut you down. They're not going to list with you. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. You have got to paint this purple bedroom. Oh, this probably was one of the biggest turnoffs of all time. It has to be beige. Okay, now I hate you because purple is my favorite color and you just insulted me. It's my lucky color, whatever. So just say, let me make some notes, and then we'll talk about price and timing. And then that's going to give us some guidance on what we need to do. And then I'm going to go out once you list with me, and we're going to go to the front. We're going to go all the way back through the property, and we're going to make our action list and see what you're willing to do. So you can be helpful. Just don't give away everything, guys, because they need to hire you to get it. Now, of course, they are going to be watching you closely because they probably weren't too happy with how things went the last time. They are not as trusting as they potentially were before. So they're going to be the visual anti-seller, potentially, right? So instead of watching to catch you doing things right or assuming you're doing things right, they're going to be watching for mistakes. So think of this like the honeymoon phase, those first couple of weeks. Over-service them. Over-service them. I mean, call them every day if you need to. They'll calm down. They'll get in a groove with you, and then you can follow your normal seller service plan. Now, I should mention here, don't be one of those agents that has a bunch of expired listings because you didn't call your seller every week. Because you see, if you don't stay in touch with your active listings, if you don't talk to your sellers at least a couple of times a month, but ideally every week, they will not like you. They will not trust you. Rapport will be broken. And that other saying, don't cut off your nose to spite your face. What they will actually do is they will suffer. They will not reduce the price. They will not negotiate aggressively on an offer because they are so mad at you, they don't want you to get paid. And then they relist with someone else and do everything they should have done with you. And you may have even been telling them what they needed to do. But you see, trust and rapport was broken, so they did not want to do it with you. ego, frustration got in the way. So please avoid having your own listings expire. Do a great job for these people and have a good service plan. So of course, if they don't list, don't let this all go to waste. You can put them in your e-blast. You may decide that they're worthy of going on your mail list of things you may be mailing to your quality database. You make decisions on your callback plan and follow up with them. Now, if you do happen to have a lot of expireds in your market, you may even want to have a quote expired farm. You know, if you look at geographic farms across the nation, which most top agents do have, they feel very fortunate if there's 4.5% to 5% turnover in a year in that geo farm. But if you corralled all these expireds that did not list right away and marketed to them methodically, can you just imagine what the turnover rate would potentially be in that group in 1 to 2 years? So could be your strategy. So if you love working expireds, you may want to go back. As Monica said before, go back to the old ones and capture those opportunities. If you're having trouble finding a home for your buyer, going back to those expireds could be a great opportunity for at least a one-party show agreement, even if they won't list. So it's almost like you're creating your own quiet sale pipeline, right? That you could go and say, I know you're not on the market. I know you're not planning to list with me right now. Would you like me to show this buyer your home? Just be sure if you're going to do that, get something in writing, price, commission, all of that up front before you expose your buyer to that property. Collect testimonials that are very specific from those expireds you rescued. Help script them. So if I said to Monica, you know, Monica, I know you were listed twice before, once with a cut rate broker and once with an agent that was kind of part-time, and then I listed it and we sold it in 2 weeks and we got multiple bids, and I know you've told me you're happy. So, you know, just to help others not make that same mistake, what advice would you give them? Oh my goodness, I would say you've got to find a quality agent like Debbie. You've got to pay the commission it takes. Debbie was amazing. She did everything, blah, 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 blah. See, now I've got a sheet of testimonials that are expired specific. So your other testimonials are fine, but be working to gather this very special list of social proof that you have rescued others, and therefore they should let you rescue them. Now, you may want to target out of area expireds before they expire, not by breaking the rules and going to the seller, but go instead to the agent. So if Monica is in LA and I'm an hour away in traffic in Newport Beach, and I see that she's got a Newport Beach listing here that's 160 days on the market, I could call Monica and say, hey, Monica, hey, I know you're a great agent and I know you work LA. I know you've got this listing over here. It's probably coming up for expiring soon. I was just wondering, if you don't want it, if you don't want to relist it, how about referring it to me, getting me in there to talk to them before it expires, and in turn, I'll pay you a 25% referral fee so you recoup your losses, right? So I'm not breaking any rules. I'm going to the agent and saying, would you like to partner with me on this opportunity? All right, guys, so I know that we're running out of time, so maybe we can come back another time and talk about convincer strategy, which is really cool, NLP techniques. And I also, Monica could share with them in the future this 3-tier pricing strategy conversation that may work very well. I just say though, guys, going in, you're going to have a pretty good idea because you know where they tried and failed. You're going to know, they're going to know. Pricing probably isn't going to be a huge problem with the expired unless they're just a little bit wacky, right?
Right. Oh my gosh, Debbie, we have to have you back for the rest of those.
Oh,
things.
you will. And we'll talk about this one too later, because once you get that listing signed, if you think it's too high, set that price reduction strategy. And you know, just to sort of sum it up today, guys, whatever plan is your best plan for you, choose it, outline it, have your action steps, and then work it like a machine. You know, when we're working with our coaching clients, we tell them they need 3 to 5 systems of creating listings. It won't be your only answer, but it could be a significant system. And don't let your own listings expire. All right, so I know we covered a lot. We've got those free gifts coming your way. There's nothing you need to do to get them. If you have questions for me, because we got about 20 seconds that you didn't get to ask, I'll give you my direct email. It's debbiedgrote@gmail.com. So super easy. And my coaches are standing by to help you. So very simple. My customer service person, Gary, will call you. We'll find out what you want help with. He'll bring that to me. I'll match you with the right coach. Very easy to book it. www.businessstrategycall.com. And we're on standby to help. And Monica, thanks to you and your team for this opportunity. And I hope they all enjoy their gifts. And guys, listen to Secrets of Super Salespeople. Make sure you watch for that great little book.
Do you have time do you have 1 minute for a couple quick questions?
Actually, let me just check my calendar here, because sadly, I think yes, I am good. I am good. Actually, it's my coaching session with my daughter, Erica, who, since I'm her mom, will be happy to wait a minute.
Well, that's awesome. Literally just 2 minutes, because we've got some good questions that I held off just because you were on such an awesome roll. So Wayne asked, what if you're using the pre-recorded voicemail? When we were talking about mirroring matching on the voicemail, you know, the systems have those pre-recorded voicemails. Do you just recommend against those, or what are your thoughts?
No, I don't recommend against them. I think just like the Espresso tool technology, I mean, things are there to make our life easier and better. What I would say is when you talk very fast, persuasion does not occur easily. So I wouldn't do a message that's like, hey, you know, this is Wayne and I'm your salesman and I'm here to help you. If you sound like a telemarketer, they will be repelled. If you talk too fast, they will be repelled. So I just be very calm, very conversational, you know, not so low key that you're boring, but just very, very real.
Okay.
And not too super, super polished, or that probably won't work well for you.
Yeah, good. Okay. And then another question, when you come prepared with the listing agreement, just in case, are you taking time to fill it out, or you're just having it blank when you walk in?
You know, if it's a scheduled appointment, I would always take time to fill it out. But when it was just in the middle of my busy day and I had a chance to get in front of them, seldom. I usually just had it with me. And, you know, I didn't even worry on those on-the-fly previews of actually running a market evaluation, because I already knew what it had been listed for. I knew the market. I also knew that they had had very little activity or what had gone on. And once I got in the door, I could often ask them, did they have any offers? And if they said yes, what were they? And so I had a pretty good sense of it. It was pretty easy to wing it. And then I would say, if I needed to, you know, here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go ahead and list the property today because we've determined we want to work together. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to do my thorough research. And I'm just going to confirm that we did the right thing on price. And if for any reason we don't agree, I'd be happy to give you the listing back. So I just went on the fly if I could get in front of them.
Okay, awesome. And then let's see, Jennifer says, so when you're not giving feedback to the seller on the condition of the home before they list, so no hallway advice, how do you decide price as you don't know what they will do that you recommend? If you recommend
Great question. Ask them in the hallway. So when they're saying, well, how much work and what about this and what about that? You say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, may I ask you a question? Do you prefer to sell it as is and potentially adjust the price? Or did you have some thoughts about what you wanted or would be willing to do to the home to get a higher price? I go to questions always more than statements.
It's so critical, and we as agents want to answer every question because we think that's our job, but asking that question will oftentimes give you so much more insight, right?
Right, so much more insight. So, and it shows that you're listening, and that's what they want. They want you to listen. They want you to be the champion of their property, and that you listen and hear them and take those concerns seriously, and just stand out as different, which goes back to rapport.
Awesome. Okay. And we'll hit this last question another time when we have you back. There was a question about what methods you have to market the property once you get the listing agreement, which, Clyde, is a great question.
Great question.
We'll have to put on the back burner for next time, I think.
That's a big one, but we can talk about that. Well, thank you guys for tuning in today. Hope you found it helpful. Again, debbiedgrote@gmail.com, and I have phenomenal coaches who all have serious expertise in this area and many, many others. So if you'd like to reach out, we'll get you scheduled to speak to one of them in the next week.
I hope people will reach out. That is a nice offer. And you've been amazing. And thanks to you and your team. And we loved having you.
All right. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys.
See ya.